Well, our next featured speaker is Alfred Flores. He is earning his PhD in history here at UCLA. He's a doctoral student. Is he here? I hope. Okay, come on out. Come on out. This project is called The Operations of U.S. Empire, Colonization, and Chamoru, Counteraction in Guam. And he's going to be interviewed by the director of the Asian American Studies Center, Professor A.
I'd also like to thank IAC for its support, and realize that we don't have very much time. But Alfred and I actually talked about this project last week, and before I knew it, 45 minutes had passed. Oh, wow. So we won't take out that much time today. But maybe just quickly, could you just tell us a little bit about how you got interested in your project?
So just to give you a quick idea of the geography or the location of Guam, it's actually a 212 square mile island located in the western Pacific Ocean that is east of the Philippines and southeast of Japan. So I always have to open up my talks with a quick little geography tip just in case you don't know where Guam is, because I have folks thinking that it's in the Caribbean, it's in Latin America, it's in Africa, so I've had the whole gamut of where it is, and so just to give you a quick point of reference. The idea for my research actually began with the current mobilization of the U.S. the military, the U.S. military in the Asia Pacific region. So specifically, right now, what's going on is that the U.S. Government is shifting 8,000 Marines from Okinawa to Guam, but not just the Marines, but also their dependents and anywhere from 10 to 20,000 migrant laborers. And so for an island that has only 175,000 people living on it, anywhere from that amount of, that large of a population shift really puts a lot of pressure on the local infrastructure and the other different issues that can come across or arise from that. And so specifically some of the issues that kept kind of popping up were issues of land, like what land would the military occupy in Guam? Where would the labor come from? And what are some of the environmental impacts that this kind of reorganization would have on the island? And so this made me come to a question, which was, is this the first time this has actually happened in the island or anywhere in the Asia Pacific region? And for the case of Guam, no. And actually the first major military buildup occurred in the post-World War, actually World War II, post-World War II period. And so during the Cold War era, during the Cold War era, you see massive military structures coming up, bases, military installations, storage facilities for nuclear weapons, all these other things that come across with military buildup come into play in the post-World War II period. And so some of the issues that really resonated for me were issues of land, labor, and the consequences that come with all this. And so that really served as the impetus for my interest in this research project. And so my research really focuses at looking at how the U.S. military acquired the land, why certain areas of land, and where did they get the labor they did for this military project during the Cold War era? Where did they get all these laborers for this massive military project? And from what I've come across, Asians have been highly recruited to work on all these military projects, while native Chamorros have dealt with the majority of the land loss there. So that's kind of what the major kind of issues that my research is looking at.
When we were talking last week, you had talked a little bit about the images that you chose to loop. And I was just wondering if you might pick a couple of them and maybe talk a little bit about why you chose those images.
So what I've come across is that Filipinos, South Koreans, and various other Pacific Islanders have served as the majority of the migrant labor that's come to Guam. And so I wanted to see how did these groups of people, and particularly for the images I've selected, Filipinos, how did they deal with the work conditions that they had? Because these people lived primarily in labor camps and were only allowed outside these labor camps with permission from the military. And so one of the ways in which they dealt with it was, as it loops around, is the picture of the basketball team. And as we see in a lot of other, if we look at the the historiography of United States history, of U.S. history, is that corporations and companies have actually used sports teams as a way to diminish and dissuade, unionization, worker uprisings, rebellions, and so this is one of the ways they encourage basketball teams. And so I really like this picture because Mass Delco is actually the name of the company. So you see the Mass Delco Warriors basketball team, and so that's the Camp Rojas Village, the military. This is their team picture, and the best part is that from the primary sources that I read and from the interviews that I've come across, is teams usually like to pick a muse, a source of their inspiration. And so in this picture, you can see Miss Mary Concepcion as the team muse, as the source of inspiration. So. I think it's a really good. I think it's a really telling picture because it really shows how these group of men, the few women that were on the island of Guam that worked in these camps, they served as medical assistants and nurses. This is the way they really tried to build a sense of community and deal with the issues of having poor working conditions, being paid very low wages, and dealing with all the things that they had to an island. So that, and there's another picture of a group of folks all together. Yeah, so that's actually them at one of the beaches in southern Guam. And this beach, they actually nicknamed it Rizal Beach, which is named after one of the Philippines leaders. So they nicknamed it after, someone that meant that was really important to them. So that's them hanging out at Rizal Beach. But if you see a couple other photos, the one with the map in particular, the reason why that's a very significant map, because you can kind of see it, it doesn't show out too well, but you can see like the little boxes within the map, those are actually the areas of land that the US military owns. So it actually ends up coming to about anywhere from 25% to 33% of the island that the military actually owns. And this kind of fluctuates, but it doesn't, for the most part, these are the areas that they own. And so the current discussions now is to acquire more land for all these different, for all the different storage facilities and for the housing that they're going to need for the new military coming in. So this is one picture I kind of wanted to highlight and to show you. And then you can see the little smaller map where it is more located geographically in the Asia Pacific region.
How are we doing for time? This one. Okay, how about some questions from folks out there?
Yes.
When did the population of Guam become U.S. citizens? And has that allowed them to fight back? And I'm thinking, the reason why I'm asking is I'm doing a similar study on IAC in Puerto Rico, which is, yeah, and I'm just wondering how that plays out.
Yes, so in 1898, of course, the Spanish-American War, the United States, or Guam becomes a territory of the United States. And so from 1898, they share a very much similar history with the Philippines, which the people there are nationals. But it's not until 1950, with the passing of one of the several organic acts, that Chamoros on the island become citizens. But for the Chamoros who were a part of that movement to gain citizenship, I think at the time they believed that citizenship would provide them with the opportunity to move towards decolonization, and not for an integration within the United States, mainstream. I think they believed at that time that it would allow them to get steps closer to decolonization. And so, while that was their intention, that technically does not come to fruition, because with other places in the Pacific, like Saipan and the Northern Marianas, they have compacts with the United States, which allowed them a little bit more sovereignty. That they believe that they allowed them to give more autonomy in dealing with the U.S. government in terms of federal policies, but Guam does not have. Guam is still considered is still a territory of the United States, and so they have not moved towards that kind of compact or Commonwealth kind of status. But even looking at Puerto Rico and other places, Commonwealth, organized territory, unorganized territory, these are all terms that are very vague, and they don't really guarantee either way if there's actually real tangible rights that come with them, or any kind of actual agency that comes with that kind of status. So
thank you. It's a great project. Look forward to when you get hooded.